Hey y'all, today I want to go over a comprehensive but still simple tutorial on how to use Stellarium and how to use it specifically to plan out your astrophotography trips. Because the last thing you want to do is to go out into the middle of the field about a couple hours away from home and then realize that the object you wanted to shoot just wasn't, like, you don't have the right setup for it. And to avoid all that, it's best to pre-plan it ahead of time, and this is how you do it. So the first step you want to do is go onto the stellarium.org website, just the base one. There's also Stellarium Web right there, so if you just want to see it online. However, it's not as powerful. You can't adjust it as much. It's just better to download it if possible. They also have an app on the both Play Store and App Store, I believe, and that is also a really good app for whenever you're out on the field. But still, like the web, just isn't as comprehensive as the actual program. So for me, I got Windows 10 64-bit, so I just install that. So you just open that up real quick, give it permission, that's why it flickered. English, accept. They're not like a virus or anything, never had any issues. They're a great company, or not company, but I guess organization. In this case, I'm just going to choose my D drive because that's has more room right now than my C. So, yep, you just create next. For all users, desktop shortcut. Just click next. It'll take a couple of minutes for most people. Luckily, my school Ethernet actually is insanely fast. I guess they installed fiber or something because for me it's like near gig download. It's actually insane. But yeah, once you do that, you can just click finish and launch Stellarium right there. And so you go in here, just wait for it to load up. It'll take a minute. Gotta make sure it's loaded. Alright, welcome to Stellarium. It is not very helpful right now because it's daytime and you can't see anything during the day, so you won't see anything in Stellarium. So what you can do is the bottom bar and speed up. That's like fast forward in time. I'm just gonna wait until it's like the dead of night. Alright, here we go. Stellarium. So there are three main menus right here. You got the top one, which is for your personal rig. That's how you plan out everything. We'll go over that last. You got the bottom bar, which is like, just quick and easy options like toggles for GUI and all that. And then the left one right here, which isn't very obvious at first, but if you hover over the left side, this is where you get all the in-depth options. But first, I just want to real quick go over the bottom because this is probably what you're going to use some of the most. But you can, toggle constellations, labels, and art. It's pretty neat, but not very useful in my personal opinion, or at least for my purposes. Everybody has their own preferences. You can also toggle the equatorial grid, the azimuthal grid. You can also toggle on and off the ground. Sometimes you may want to turn it off just to see how low something is in the sky. Maybe something down here will go above the ground soon, and you just want to real quick see how far down it is. You can also toggle the atmosphere. So this is with the atmospheric distortion, really good for being able to tell what you can see versus what's actually there. I like turning it off because generally I already account for the atmosphere. I don't photograph dim objects very often. At least not so dim that you can't see with the atmosphere. This is just the cardinal points, so the stuff right there, I just keep them on. It's a good reference. I would just keep it on if I were you. And you can also toggle both star labels and deep sky labels. So as you can see, that turns on that. And that, I guess, trust me, I'm trying to find it too, but I remember early. Anyways, generally, by default, it's this way. It's fine. You'll be able to find deep space objects easily as long as you follow with the tutorial real quick. And this will basically switch between what it looks like on an equatorial mount, which will follow the night sky. So if I speed up, it'll follow the night sky. But since we're just planning it out right now, I always just have that off. You can also center, so if you click on an object, you can, you can either click, just click on it, like double click, and then you can zoom in. Or, if you wander off, whatever, you don't feel like double clicking it, you can also just click this button right here, and it'll just focus on whatever you're pointed at. And then next, there's the night mode, so if you're out on the field shooting, you may want it to be more redshifted, which this program does have built in. And then you can also choose full screen or not. You can also just click F11. And there's always like, you can also click space for this. It shows all the shortcuts like right here. So if I go over here, see how it's like right there. It'll show you the shortcut and also what it is. So there's also like you can look up meteor showers and all that for the current year. Pretty neat. You can fidget around with that. The best way to honestly learn a lot of these settings is just to fidget around with it, mess with the settings. That's how I learned a lot of the stuff I know. I'm sure there's like other guides on like more like specific settings. If y'all want me to cover anything that I didn't cover in this video very in depth, just let me know and I'll come up with a comprehensive tutorial. So then you also just got the time warp, which I showed you earlier, and quit. So that's just the basic bottom settings. It's basically just an easy way to navigate through the program. Boo moon, we don't like its light pollution. Ooh, there's also Jupiter out. Okay, anyways, before I get distracted, the next window I want to cover is kind of hidden, but if you hover over the bottom left corner of the screen, you'll see this. This is where all the meat and potatoes are of the program, where you'll probably spend a lot of your time fidgeting with. I always end up fidgeting with this quite a bit. Location window, it basically is showing where you are. Depending on where you are on the planet, northern, southern hemisphere, even just a specific latitude and longitude will affect how the night sky will look. So it's best if you choose the nearest location to where you are or where you're gonna shoot. In this case, I go to school in Daytona Beach, so it's best to for me at least, to just select that because it's closest to me. So once you're done, you just click close. That's all you need to do. Don't worry about it, because if you open it back up, it'll still save it. You can see the little arrow confirms that it is selected there. You can also choose specific coordinates too, but it's generally easier to just choose a pre-existing town. And then the date time window just allows you time warp. You can go to any point in the past or future. You can choose the date and time. But yeah, that's pretty self-explanatory. But I think the settings that are going to change your experience on Stellarium the most are going to be in the sky and viewing options window right here, the third one down. And so this adjusts the Milky Way's brightness, so it'll be more saturated and all that. So if I do that, you can see it changes, but I just generally keep it the default. You also got like all these other options: atmospheric visualization, light pollution. I'm just going to do automatic, just then it's easier on me, but it may not always be the most accurate sometimes. Like, some places may have slightly different light pollution because of elevation blocking light or whatever. You can also show just shooting stars as like a little animation thing. It's pretty neat. You can also show stars and twinkle and all that. You can basically just choose a bunch of different things. There's also different projections, like, fisheye, orthographic, Mercator, but I just stick to the default because there's not much of a reason to change for the most part. There's also the solar system objects menu, just covers all the settings for like objects and all that. You can apparently also add in your own objects, but I'm not very well versed in it, and also it's just for a much more advanced tutorial. Deep sky objects are objects past the solar system, and this is where you can adjust which ones you see. I always like selecting every single catalog to display objects from, because I don't ever like not being able to look into something. It's just my curiosity personally. But if you notice it's being a bit cluttered, then you can just um, yeah, you can either select standard to go back, which, for the most part, those are the main ones, like M53 and, just all the NGC and IC catalogs. But I also like putting in all these. I personally love the PGC catalog because that's like all the distant galaxies and stuff. And so, and then you can also filter by type here, and just like if you don't want to see galaxies, no more galaxies. Oh, well, now it's back. Anyways, I don't like filtering out anything. Labels and markers you can also adjust. Markings, these are just like, just customizations for like all the different, just different UI elements. Generally, I just leave that alone. You can also choose the landscape, so like trees. You can also choose just some pretty funny ones as well, like Uranus, Zero Horizon, this default one, Geneva. You can choose the moon in case you're ever on the moon. If you're watching this in like 2050 and you're one of the like 2 researchers on the moon. And then yeah, Zero Horizon is just the default. I generally do that just to keep it simple. You can also choose which sky culture to look at whenever you look at constellations. I just stick with modern, but you can choose anything. They got like Sardinian, Russian, Indian, Chinese, whatever, Hawaiian. But the one I always like to choose is surveys. You can choose either deep sky or solar system, because if you notice, if you zoom in, you don't see much. It's just black with some dots for stars. And that's not very fun, especially if you want to look up something like Sunflower Galaxy or something. Like if you turn off the ground, well, they got Sunflower, but and they got some of the more famous ones right here, but there's like nothing in between. So like, I don't know if they have Stephen's Quint. Oh, they actually do. Okay, but as you can see, they only go more in depth at certain points. Let me just pause it. And so if you want to look up slightly more obscure galaxies, like if you have personal preferences, it's almost better if you know. Also, the star density isn't very high. So basically, to resolve that, you go into sky viewing options, surveys, and then you can choose any of these surveys. I always personally use, come on, trying to remember where it is on the menu. Why do they go straight from... Come on. Alright, I'll cut it in post-processing. Just cut all this out. It's kind of okay. Alright, I finally found it. Alright, so basically what I always choose is DSS colored. This one is a very comprehensive survey. That's what I'm going to be using for the tutorial. You can choose whatever you want, but this is the one that I personally use. So you X out of that. It already selected it, but you'll notice it hasn't loaded yet. That's why you want to, I'll turn on the ground again. But that's why you'll want to do Control-Alt-D, and you'll see it's loading on the bottom right, and boom, you'll see it. So it looks kind of weird, but that's just because these are a bunch of stitched images, and sometimes like light pollution or something in one direction will kind of like slightly adjust the hue. However, you'll notice that if you zoom in and you just wait for it to load, like you wait a minute, you'll see all these stars start to load in between. Hey, look, now you can see like a bunch of tiny objects. Like, I don't think you would have ever been able to see this object before, PGC 57769. Like, now you can see all these tiny little objects, and it's pretty cool, because even if you could select them in Stellarium, you wouldn't be able to see what they look like. But yeah, that's basically the last option of the viewing and sky options window. The search window, which you saw me use earlier, you can also click Control F for it. They will tell you in brackets right next to the name, like the shortcut for it. So if you ever want to like look up a shortcut for something that I didn't show, you can look up anything. So like the Helix Nebula, as long as it's in the catalog you've chosen to be available. So oh my god, the Helix Nebula, is so cool, right? Yeah, so if I want to look at Titan, oh my god, there's Saturn. Whoa, Titan, so interesting. But yeah, that's basically how you look up objects. You can also look up based off of like, yeah. So you can look up that through position, through lists, and also just options for like just the search UI and all that. And you can choose the server to look through. I guess I should select Harvard since I'm in the US. Merca. But yeah, it also just shows you where you are right here. So like Earth, Daytona Beach, 6 meters, because that's the elevation, because we are basically at sea level. FOV, that's, so if you zoom in more, it gets smaller. The frames per second, my computer generally runs it fairly smoothly at like about 60, and it doesn't drop all that much below. And then the specific time, date, and time zone right here. But the next one on the left bar, so once I deselect all that, is the configuration window. This is just for like language and program, like general program settings, what you see. So display field, so if I select this, and then I toggle display field, it'll toggle the name on and off. So yeah, I'm just going to select all available because I want to see all the object information. There's some extra stuff that you can choose. All this is like UI, this is time, and like format, date format, different planetarian options. You can always adjust this later and do it according to your own preference, like I said, but just for this tutorial, I'm just going to brush over it. But all these are, these are scripts and stuff, so yeah, you can kind of just look at different, like, things. It will show you different things. Kind of hard to describe, but then you also got plugins, which will allow you to see like different things by default. I'll just look through these and see what you want to see. All these have like different purposes depending on what you want to know. But yeah, that's just basically the overview of the Stellarium configuration window. And then there's also astronomical calculations window, so you can kind of see where things are in the sky at any given time. The graph is also very useful. It'll show you where it is at highest in the sky, so the culmination, at what time, where it is now, and also it's just over the span of 24 hours. There's also just a couple other, there's also a Eclipse calculator. All pretty cool, all pretty in-depth if you want to try to photograph or just witness those. And then there's just the help window. It's just about, log, all that. So a brief overview of how you'll see everything by default. It'll just show everything. So you got the name, you got all the alternative names right here. It'll show you the type, magnitude, brightness. Sorry about the flickering. I have no idea why it's doing that. I couldn't tell you. The position, all this is like position stuff. Then you get to here where it's like rise, transit, set. It just briefly overviews the time. It'll show you the distance, so that's in light years, but if you go even further, it shows you megaparsecs in light years. Million light years, actually, for a lot of galaxies. Motion, parallax, angle, and it basically just brief overview where it is, when it rises, when it sets, and what it is. So if I look up the North American Nebula, it'll say, oh, it's an H2 region. Or like right here, the Helix Nebula is a planetary nebula. It's the biggest, brightest one in the night sky. And it'll show you like all that stuff too. It'll change. And finally, in my opinion, the most important for planning ahead of time is the top right. So this is going to be how you calculate what you can see through your rig, either through your camera or through just a lens with your eye. So I'll first go over the configuration for all this. This is what these are all the UI settings. So basically, you know, like how transparent the mask is, the FOV outline, all that. And then these different menus, basically you can either edit, add, or subtract from the selection. So this is just what you see by default. You can always add to sensors. That'll be like with also the rotation angle and like telescopes. So just to show you how to add, let's just say I want to do like, you know, photo lens 300 millimeters f over 4.8, because that's what I have right now. It's just a stock Canon lens. I don't know if it's that specific f, but it's upper 4. And I'll just use the 135 as reference, so in this case it's 48.2 millimeters. All this is in millimeters, so just keep that in mind. It's all metric, all millimeters. That's just how it is. So let's say you accidentally add something. Whoops, I forgot to, I didn't mean to do that. You can just click delete. A pop-up showed, so it's blacking out, but yep. So once you're back, it'll, yeah, you can also adjust where it is, so you can like shuffle it up and down. And this is just the about. This is the Oculars plugin, which, if you want to see where that is, so Oculars plugin, forgot to mention that. This is what you want to do for the Oculars. It's honestly the most important plugin. Sorry if I forgot to mention that earlier. But yeah, this is the most useful plugin, in my opinion, for astrophotography. So once you do that, you can either like see kind of like the oh, it's still loading. It shows right there. Like if you zoom in, it has to load more. So this is just generally like, you know, aiming, framing and stuff. But this is the important one. This is for a camera. So you can select between all the sensors, including the custom ones. But in this case, I'll just go for just a random Nikon camera. Doesn't have my Rebel T7 D2000 by default, I don't believe. The telescope, I'll just choose my photo lens, and then these are like different lenses, like, you know, actual lenses. They don't have a lot by default, but let's just say, you know, I don't have any by default. This is what I see. This is the camera. So the red box is what you'll be able to see. Yeah, so this is the sensor crop overlay right here, and basically shows you, and if you want to toggle this, it'll show you the pixel grid. So if you see, if I move this out of the way, you'll see that this star, it's probably going to be about a 4 pixel wide circle, but it's really good, especially if you're looking at like, I don't know, like this galaxy right here. So you'll see the world gig, and then this is the grid, and that's how small it is on the camera. I wouldn't recommend shooting these distant of galaxies with a stock lens and DSLR. You won't be able to capture a whole lot, but you know, if you always want to try anyways, I'd feel free to try to capture these. It's always good practice. Anyways, that's how you do the astrophotography pre-planning. You can always adjust and stuff. Personally, I use my Canon Rebel T7 currently with a 300mm lens and just a cheap third-hand star tracker. And then the last button in this plugin is basically what the ocular one, what you see through just your eye. So if you have like a Dobsonian telescope or something, this might be good. So you can choose the ocular. So like let's just say it's, I don't know. I'm just gonna choose the Celestron, and then the telescope I'm just gonna say is also Celestron. Oh, yep. And then the lens, we can just say it's a reducer. And even though you gotta like manually select different objects to adjust, which you can also drag around a little bit, but you can also search for different things and click on it like previously. But yeah, that's basically how you use Stellarium, just as a very basic beginner. Just gonna save that for later. That one looks cool. Anyways, that's basically all of Stellarium, what you need to know. If I didn't cover something that you wanted to learn about more, if you want me to go more in depth about something, let me know. Otherwise, that's all I have for y'all today. And yeah, clear skies.